Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Casual Word. I'm your host, Langley, and very excited to be doing the first episode of 2020. As you guys have been following along, we're very excited about what this year is going to in store for all of us. It's a year of clarity, a year of accelerated elevation and opportunity, and we're already seeing that just as we're getting this year underway. So again, with no further ado, very excited to have my first guest. You guys know it's probably been a year or so since I've had someone on the show and been able to have somebody here to talk about what they do and how God is moving in their lives and the things that they've been able to accomplish. And I'd like to have J.J. Cox here, the painter pastor, as you all know him. J.J., thanks for being here, sir. I really appreciate you coming out.
Yes, sir.
And let's just talk a little bit about what it is that you do.
Well, I'll go into a conference or youth camp or revival, and most of the time what I do is I'll have some worship music and I'll paint the worship music as it plays.
Okay.
So I'll have 3 or 4 pictures that make up one final picture, and I'll do it in about anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. And so it's just the way I worship. And my paintings are normally like 5 feet tall but 5 feet wide.
Wow, that's the mural size almost.
Yeah, I enjoy it though, and it's how I worship the Lord. So
Have you always done the painting, or was there a point where you realized this was your ministry and this was your calling?
I started off with murals in churches and drawings all my life, and so I started preaching when I was about 9 years old. And so one day I was in a youth rally, and I started drawing pictures that went with the messages, and it didn't click. I started using very visual illustrations, and so about a year and a half ago, I did a painting at a church, and I didn't really expect anything out of it, to be honest with you. I did this painting, and it was probably about 5 feet by 5 feet wide painting. It was a good size one, and I was just painting a song as the team played, the worship team, and it just kind of happened. After then, another pastor had me in another one and another one, and now it's full-time ministry.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
So the music, you're talking about how you paint to a particular song. Is that like predefined? Do you listen to something first, or do you just go in and it's all improv and let the spirit move?
When I hear a song, it's very different for me. I've never just heard a song, I see it.
Okay.
And so part of my testimony is at a young age, I was diagnosed with ADHD, hypertension, dyslexia, and at one time they said I had autism, and I was put in first and second grade in special ed.
Okay.
And they said that his art doesn't fit what you're saying he is. And so the Lord's just always used the artwork, and it's just kind of been my thing, I guess.
Yeah. So have you ever, at your age, and you've been in ministry, you've been kind of groomed in ministry, what are some of the biggest issues and obstacles that you face personally growing, from basically when most kids are still trying to figure out, do I want to be a doctor or a lawyer, or, do I even like to draw, paint, whatever the case is. They're trying to find their hobbies and talents and things that they're interested in. You kind of were already moving in a certain direction. How did that, as a child, how did you deal with that growing up?
Well, we were taught that if you have a talent, you use it for the Lord, regardless of what it is. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of happened, I just started putting my artwork with messages, and it never really clicked to be full-time. I had another job for 11 years, and so if you'd have told me I was going to be doing this and leaving there, I would have said you was crazy.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I see is in worship, and I feel that if you don't have a private worship, then it's hard to have a worship out in the public, a public worship.
That's a good point.
And so a lot of times these paintings will come from just sitting in my house. I'll turn some worship on, I'll read the Bible, and I'll get into worship. And I just take a brush, and I'm crying out to the Lord, and I just start painting and moving my arm, and a lot of them just kind of come. So.
That's an amazing talent. We talked about kind of the absence of consciousness in the secular world with some of the art and some of the artists that I've seen before. It's kind of like, they let their mind go blank
Yeah.
and just kind of move. And so this is very similar to that, except that you've got the Holy Spirit kind of
Yes.
painting what it has in store for not only for you, but for other people to see as well.
Yes.
So let's look at some of your paintings here. We've got some set up. So each one, is it solely in conjunction with particular music, or do these have a message that you could learn without knowing the song that came behind it?
Well, these are all different. When I go to different places and paint, these are at my product table, but these are all different paintings that I've done over the years. But I guess we can start with the first one on the end, the Jesus.
Okay.
Was going through a really rough time in my life. And, I really felt like it was over. I just felt like everything was done. And I remember reading about the one lost lamb, how he left the 99 for the one. And man, the Lord just spoke to me in that middle, that trial, and he said, pick up a brush. And so I just started painting, and, I just kind of seen him holding the one lost lamb. And so that's a painting that I took some time on. It's not what we would call speed painting.
Okay.
That took me about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But it's one of my favorites. I probably did it about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And I still did not put it, as this is going to be part of full-time ministry. So
is that one now? You said it took you several hours to work on that. Now is that one that you can now do in your allotted time? Or is that one that you kind of have set off to the side?
that's just one I kind of have set off to the side.
Okay.
Now, the rest of these paintings are ones that I do in anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes.
That is just amazing.
And they're not all paint. The cowboy boots I was reading about, walking in faith and the steps of a good man. And, I just kind of got some charcoal and started drawing at home.
Okay.
And so it's done with charcoal. I have a big sheet of like a paper, and I just start drawing, and charcoal goes everywhere.
That's all right.
I lay a tarp down, but
Man, yeah. And I was going to ask you about that, not to get too far off subject, but you're talking about like 5 feet by 5 feet. I'm imagining the size of that, and I'm just thinking it's amazing to me to even envision someone being able to paint portraits of these magnitude at those sizes. At what point, I guess, did you transition into very large scale art?
well, it's kind of funny. So I have canvas, like art has took my house over. I don't have a kitchen. I have an art studio.
Sounds like me and typewriters.
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
I had this canvas that it came from a church event, and it was that size. And so I did one of these. I did the face of Jesus where he's leaning against the cross, and he's holding the cross and he's bleeding down the cross. And so I did that, and I said, if I can do it on this, I wonder how fast I can do it on this. And so, I got the music. I'll put 2 or 3 songs together. And so it's not just one song.
Okay.
And so you get a message through the music. And so it'll start off with one picture that overlaps another and another to make the final picture.
Okay.
And so I did it on the bigger canvas, and I was like, I could do this. And so I did the first one for my home church, and then someone asked me to come, and another, and to be honest, I didn't give God all the glory, and what I mean by that is when the Lord told me to go paint, I kind of just laughed, because I said, I might do this 1 or 2 times, but there's nobody going to have me come and do this. And so I was like, I'll do it. And then it kind of took off, and now I think the Lord laughs at me.
Well, and it's interesting you say that. Going in 2020, it's a lot of what a lot of us have been talking about is, through trials and tribulations in 2019, a lot of things that have happened to shape who we are and where we're going. It's really interesting to see that, all the plans that we had for ourselves and the things that we thought we were going to be doing and the things that we said, okay, this is the path that I'm going on. And now God's like, no, that's not what I'm telling you to do. Let me go ahead and make sure you go in this direction. And, it's interesting that we talk about the fact that, he knows his plans that he has for us and that, his ways are not like our ways. We talk about all those things until we have to get redirected, and it's really uncomfortable to have to say, okay, God, you're right. I'm gonna go ahead and just let me do what you're saying.
Yeah, and he'll do what he's got to do to get your attention.
Absolutely, absolutely. He'll shut doors. We talk about that a lot. Several of my friends, just whether it's removing people out of your life, shutting doors. I can remember. I'll never forget. When I used to work in a corporate job, and the money was awesome, right? And I hated the job though. I hated the job.
Yes.
I didn't have a life, but God knew there was no way I was going to leave that money. So He's put me in a position where it wasn't an option. You weren't going to work there anymore, and He shut that door, and that other door is never going to be open again.
That's what happened with me. So I was working a full-time job and then doing this for a while, and I sold God short pretty much. I'm like, God, I'm not quitting this job, and then it wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So
That's it. That's it. And that's take it from people who have experienced it, guys. When God has a call, and you can only run for so long before He's going to not only get your attention, but He's certainly going to take matters in His own hands, and you're going to get on that path whether you like it or not. When He's telling you to get on there, so. At most, what I would say, and I think Jesse would agree, is it's going to be uncomfortable, but you should embrace that change and that challenge as much as you can. We know that change is always uncomfortable and only come from a place of discomfort can you have genuine and sustainable change. But as we have witnessed going over the years now, we should be at a point where we should anticipate the change coming, and when it does happen, we should just embrace it. And just ask God to give us guidance and direction on where He's pointing us to, and not try to fight Him, because you just delay the inevitable. It's going to happen, and you end up with a lot more heartache and frustration and irritation trying to fight what God has for you, as opposed to just saying, okay, well, what do you want me to do?
I saw on the road to Damascus experience
Oh man,
where He brings you down to your knees and He blinds you to get your attention.
Yes.
So I really went through that. Honestly, and you were saying that's what I was thinking. It took a lot for God to get me to a point where I was like, okay, God, I'm letting go. I preach a lot, and I've got more paintings that's not on this table, but I've got one with the potter's wheel. And I preach on where Jeremiah went to the potter's house, and he saw work on the wheel. And man, I think about that piece of clay and how it starts off so big, and the process, it gets smaller and smaller, and it's an aggressive process, and it just gets beat up. I was in class, and I'm also in art school right now.
Terrific.
And I was in class, and I had to do some pottery, which I hate pottery. It's for me. It's not for me.
But it's not for me either.
But I was working on this piece of clay. It was just for fun, and I tried to build it right off the bat. And it would keep falling over, and the teacher said, you're trying to build something that's not ready to be built. And we learned that piece of clay, it has to go through it to get the imperfections out of it.
Right.
Before it can be something beautiful.
Right.
And so I had worked on that piece of clay, and I pushed it around, and man, it came off the wheel in my hand, and I was upset. I was so upset. I was like, man, I did all that work, and I thought about how much work the Lord had to do to get me to a place where He could use me.
That's it.
And I was upset, and the Lord kind of spoke and said, look, it's still in the potter's hand, and that's where I want to stay. I want to stay in His hand. Yeah.
That's it. And I think a lot of people we don't talk about this enough.
Yeah.
Is that, you have to go through something, right? Like you said about the impurities.
Testimony.
That's it. You have the impurities can only be burned off in the fire.
Yeah.
Right? And you can only, it has to be pressed, or whatever analogy you want to use, that the only way to get to that next level is to go through a purification process.
Yes.
And whatever it looks like for you in your own personal walk. But, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're not going to like it. You're not going to want to do it. You're not going to want to go through it. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Right? We hear that all the time. But I think people don't understand to what magnitude being that uncomfortable can be. Like you said, I mean, there's been times in my life, recently, where I was like, okay, I can't do anything else. I am tired. I'm broken. I'm giving up. And people sometimes think that they just see the end result.
Yeah.
So many times, and they don't understand the hell that you had to go through to be able to get there.
Yeah.
And to be able to be standing on this side giving a testimony. Some people don't make it. And it's unfortunate, but the reality is it's very tough. It's very hard in today's society to walk, especially from your age, to walk in this calling and to be confident in your ministry and to be confident in the word that God has spoken into you and the talent against the odds that you have faced, and then society and just social structures in general. To be here now, with your own ministry is amazing.
And I find it weird. I mean, the Lord opened up, art school at ETSU and graphic designs, and so there you're taught to question everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have professors that say, we like your skill, we like what you do, your technique, but we don't like your subject. And so
That's interesting.
it's been weird to me that in the trench, I call it the trench,
Mm-hmm.
I see everything and anything every day when I'm at school. But that's when the Lord's been speaking to me the most and giving me a lot of paintings lately is at school, So
That's terrific.
I think it's funny that in the battlefield is where if you listen, He'll speak the most if you get out of the way.
Then that is the key. You have to get out of the way.
Yes.
We can be our own stumbling block, and most of the time we are. But when we learn how to relinquish that control, right, and really just say, okay, God, you got it. Just point me in a direction, and I'll go. You see a lot of change happens internally, externally. Doors open, things begin to move in a manner that you couldn't have done on your own.
Yes.
So, well, man, I appreciate your time
Yes.
and your talent, guys. I'll put up his information at the conclusion of this video, and his booking information if you want to get him to come out and do some paintings and be part of your worship experience. We'll definitely make sure to get you guys that information. JJ Cox,
Thank you, sir.
Pastor, thank you so much for being here, guys. Hopefully have some more episodes coming at you very soon. I'm looking forward to all that God's doing here in 2020. As always, let's change the way that we think, so we change the way that we live. Until next time, stay blessed.